Midnight Snack Confessions. So last month, my buddy Dan announced to our friend group that he was embarking on a revolutionary new diet that he'd read about somewhere online. He called it Nocturnal Mindful Eating, and said the basic principle was that you could only eat in total darkness. According to Dan, eating in the dark made you more aware of your hunger cues, and therefore, you'd eat less. Now, Dan's always been one for the latest trends. He still wears toe shoes, so we mostly just nodded and let him have his moment. But I've got to admit, I was a little intrigued when he started turning off the lights at every meal and even brought a sleep mask to our weekly pizza night. At first, it was just a little odd watching Dan grope around for his garlic knots, but things got weirder. He stopped coming to lunch with us, claiming daylight ruined the metabolic benefits. Then his roommate, Greg, started complaining about waking up to mysterious food wrappers and the faint glow of the fridge at 2 a.m. One night, Greg caught Dan in the kitchen, blindfolded, elbow deep in a tub of cookie dough, claiming he was deeply connecting with his satiety signals. Dan swore it was all part of the process, but his diet seemed to involve more Ben and Jerry's than anyone's ever seen. One evening, we staged a little intervention. We invited Dan over for dinner and, as a joke, served everything in total darkness, candles out, windows covered, the whole 9 yards. Dan seemed a little too comfortable, expertly navigating his way to the breadbasket and dodging every obstacle like a seasoned ninja. It was only when we turned the lights back on that we realized half the dessert was missing, and Dan had somehow managed to get frosting on his socks. When confronted, he just shrugged and said, "It's easier to find the food if you listen to your heart, not your eyes." The kicker? Last week, Dan proudly announced he'd lost 5 pounds on his diet, but Greg finally spilled the beans. Dan had just been sneaking out for midnight snacks and eating them in the dark so nobody would catch him. Turns out, the only thing Dan was losing in the dark was his dignity, and apparently, the rest of our ice cream.